Yeah, Matthew Stafford had 2 interceptions in the loss, both of which came in the first quarter. He had thrown 30 touchdowns to just 2 picks over the first 11 games of the season. Stafford also strip sacked late in the fourth quarter that we just showed you. That preserved the Panthers' win. Mina, the 31 points allowed was the second most this Rams defense has given up all season. What was the issue on that side of the ball?
First, I'd like to say I'm never picking a Panthers game again because I don't know week to week what team we're getting. And this week it was a very good team. They did the things you had to do to pull off the upset, starting with they shrank the game. In the second half, the Rams had a time of possession deficit of 11 minutes. That's the most in any half they've played this season. They were able to do that by just simply running the ball efficiently. We know this Panthers team can run the football. But prior to this game, the Rams' run defense had been much more solid and honestly really struggled, and it's a big part of why they were able to string together those long drives. And then in the gotta-have-it moments, Bryce Young was excellent. He was accurate. He was decisive. Decisive is the word that really jumped out to me watching some of his chunk plays because outside of the throw to McMillan, which he extended a bit, all of the other big plays in this game, the dig to Coker, the deep out to Coker at the beginning, the go ball to Coker, it's mostly Jalen Coker, that ball's coming out in under 2.5 seconds. He did not allow the Rams pass rush to affect him in this game, and it was massive in those moments.
Yeah, Rams defense didn't show up. Totally no-showed. They just allowed Carolina consistently to push them. I think Carolina ran the football 40 times. So when you are, as a defense, never putting an offensive team 2nd and 7, 3rd and 6, Dave Canales, and I want to credit him for continuing to run the football and stay efficient. I also thought the Rams tackled very poorly out in space. Credit Carolina. Rams no-showed. Do I think it has to do something with the absolutely ridiculous travel that the NFL has given this football team? Absolutely. The Rams have gone East Coast week 2, East Coast week 3, East Coast week 5, London week 6, back to the East Coast again this past weekend with a 1 o'clock, which is 10 o'clock to their start. So I don't want to give them excuses. They no-showed, but I think they're going to look forward to getting to the end of their season and not traveling as much as they have.
I think
Look
one
at that.
Yeah, I think one of
That's
the
insane.
reasons the Rams have been so good is because their quarterback has played absolutely out of his mind. When you think over the last 10 weeks, what he's been able to do with protecting the ball and also being aggressive, I thought that they attacked Matthew Stafford. You have to get him to turn the football over. You have to put pressure on him. You have to have vision to break when you can see the quarterback and make plays on the football, and they were able to do that. And on the other side of that, you had a little bit of luck, right? The football hits Derek Brown in the helmet on what would have been a touchdown, right? You get to the quarterback, and Derek Brown knocks the ball out of his hands, and you need those sort of plays when you're actually outmanned. And then the other side of that was timely plays by Bryce Young in this offense. 2 fourth-down big plays, a big third-down throw late to Coker. All of those things went in their favor, and that's what has to happen to beat one of the best teams in the league.
I think we learned a lot about the Panthers because we were on the show a week ago, and we were like, Panthers, they've got a shot to really shock the world, and then they were terrible against the 49ers. And that's a cross-country flight, short week, holiday season going on, Thanksgiving, everything, and they're like, all right, let's go beat the best team in football, and let's do it handedly. I love the aggressive nature of Canales, though. 3 for 3 on 4th down. They did the same exact thing against the Packers, and those 4th down conversions that they made were big plays. It wasn't just the one pitch to Dowdle. They also said, okay, let's go deep on the pass. Let's find Coker. Let's find McMillan. Aggressive football in a game where it would have been really easy to say, you know what, let's play it safe, let's hang in there. No, 4th and 2, we're not punting the ball. We're going deep to our first-round pick. Young looked good. Canales called the game well, and they have now beaten the Packers in Lambeau. They've swept the Falcons, and they go and do this. It's like, all right, they've got some real wins on their resume.
They could beat anybody type of thing.
They sure can.
In talking to their GM, Dan Morgan, last week when we had him on Monday Night Football, he's like, we are just trying to work on the consistency. That's been the issue for them. And once again, we see a high point of some of the inconsistency. Marcus, we've talked some about the way that the Rams offense struggled. Matthew Stafford, of course, had some uncharacteristic mistakes. But what specifically was wrong for them?
Well, obviously, Boogie, it goes back to the turnovers, but it's when they happen as well. You got a red zone that bounce off of Derek Brown helmet. That takes 3 points off the board. People don't look at it like that. This was a close look at the score. That was at least a field goal if you don't turn the football over in that situation. You think about the sack fumble. The sack fumble was in the red zone as well after a penalty on the play previous to that. I'll say this. Look, I think Sean McVay and obviously Matthew Stafford, even after the pick six, if you were watching the game, when Matthew Stafford went to the sideline, him and Sean McVay was like, all right, mistake, we'll get back to it.
Right.
Next possession, they walked the ball down the field and scored a touchdown. I think the team still leaves with a great deal of confidence, but it goes to show you how much turnovers matter. And now that we're getting around playoff football, ball security is a premium. I will say this, though, Dan. You said the Rams didn't show up, and I agree. I see the travel.
Defensively.
That offensive line bullet.
Who, Carolina? Yeah, I would say if you're the Rams, I'm not going to overreact to one game.
Right,
I would say I don't necessarily want to see the Bears.
It was some movement. It was some movement up front.
The Rams are a little lighter on the interior of their defensive line. It's great for getting after the quarterback, but if you go up against a team that could actually bully you, very few teams in the NFL can. Chicago's one of them.
Yeah, and just stay committed to it. That's the big thing that Canales did was, okay, 2nd and 7. Here comes another run to get us to 3rd and 2.
And as we've given some credit to Bryce Young, I mean, he's been clutch, you guys. He leads the NFL with 4 go-ahead touchdown passes in the 4th quarter or overtime this season.
And I would just say this is the story of the season. We crown teams, and then they lay an egg the next following week. That's like week after week. This is the team. This is the team. It's going to make for an incredible November and December run.
There is now a 3-way tie for the best record in the NFC at 9-3 with the Bears, Rams, and Seahawks. Look at these Bears.
How about
this
that?
Is the first
After
time.
Thanksgiving, the Bears are the one.
I just want people to pay attention to who in the hunt.
Okay, we see that. You're talking about those Cowboys there right in the middle.
Keep an eye out.
Look at the right side of your screen, people. That's what Swagoo wants you to see. 6-5-1. But anyway, this is the first time 3 teams were tied for a share of the best record in the conference entering December in the NFC since 2014. All right, RC, what do you see there?
Well, the big
RC's
thing,
still over there.
cold.
They keep sitting me over here. And by the way, these seats are cold as a mofo.
Your mic not on.
My mic's not on.
There it is.
There it is. It's on.
You guys didn't hear what he said.
Sorry, that's punishment for being over in timeout.
Hey, I already know. Dan, listen, the Chicago Bears are one of those teams where people are thinking to themselves, are they really good? And they just continue to win. What's impressed you about the way they were able to go to Philly and walk out of there with the dub?
I have not seen anybody push Philly around the way that the Bears did. I think the Bears are staking claim to the best run game in football. I think, 1, with the motion and personnel, they waste defenders. And then 2, they're moving defensive linemen. So here goes the tight end in motion. DJ Moore is at the fullback position. Watch the bottom 3 players at the bottom of the screen. And also Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter gets moved 5 yards off the original line of scrimmage, and that motion leaves those 3 people. So you're not blocking 3 while also completely displacing one of the best defensive tackles in all of football. This time the tight end's at the fullback. Here comes the receiver in motion. Once again, we're going to waste people for the defense. Because DJ Moore is slicing backside and the tight end, 3 defenders are pulled. A defensive tackle is getting blocked into Quinyon Mitchell, who's covering the receiver in man-to-man, and you're just completely losing people from a defensive perspective. Tight end's going to come in motion. They're going to toss this ball to the tailback, but it's inside zone. So the defense, 5 guys are running outside to the perimeter thinking because of the toss, while you're chopping that backside defensive tackle, and there's another gigantic seam for DeAndre Swift to run through. I think all that stuff to look at with the motion, different personnel, and then the seams that are getting created while they're getting that vertical push, it's going to be brutal for teams in the back end of the stretch, and I think they're going to get into the playoffs.
I think the beginning part of that is what Monungai and DeAndre Swift have become, similar to Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery.
Sure.
And also, we credited Dan Campbell so much with the physicality and the culture of the offense in Detroit, but I feel like we see that from Ben Johnson now because he makes that come alive schematically. For me, they're like Allen Iverson, right? They're the answer. And you try to figure out, okay, how do you have this close game against the Minnesota Vikings? You find a way to get the huge kickoff return. Then we see Caleb Williams finish against the Giants. Well, when Jalen Hunt got this interception, I was like, okay, there's the play. Right now, the Philadelphia Eagles will find a way. You have a Nation Wright forced fumble on the tush push, and then you have a big run by Monungai to get them from within their own goal line. And they continue to move the ball until you have a 4th and 5. And now you have a decision to make. And you go to Colston Loveland, right, your rookie tight end who started this season off slow, starting to come around and be a playmaker. Monungai finishes with physicality in the red zone. To me, this team always has the appropriate response to adversity, which is very difficult for a young football team. And Ben Johnson is creating that sort of culture.
I thought it was so impressive. They went into the defending Super Bowl champion's house. Quarterback played like a C game, and the game wasn't even close. I think that schematically, they stress you so much, and then physically, they stress you so much. They're a handful when it comes to defending the run.
I want to say this about the quarterback, right? Because there was much of this game, he was below 50%.
Sure.
But when they needed plays from him with his legs and with his arms, he found ways to make those in critical football moments. And those are the things that Caleb Williams has to do to make sure this team can continue winning, Laura.
Yeah, the Bears have won 9 of their last 10 games. It's just been remarkable to see what they've been able to do. Let's talk about those Cowboys, Swag. We made you wait long enough. The Dak Prescott led the Cowboys to a win over the Chiefs on Thanksgiving. He had 2 touchdowns, 320 pass yards in the game, and it was impressive. But that Cowboys defense has significantly improved during their 3-game win streak. Dallas allowing just under 70 yards per game on the ground over its last 3 games, which lines up, of course, with the acquisition of Quinnen Williams from the Jets. And we got to start with you, Swag. I mean, it's interesting. When they made that trade to get Quinnen Williams, we're all like, could that be enough to really put him on a run here? What has changed over the recent weeks, especially with Quinnen Williams joining the fold?
Well, you know, they got Quinnen, but they also got some guys back. DeMario and Overshawn has been huge for this team. But I think more importantly, man, and Boogie, you've heard me say this a bunch, man. This is about interior pressure now. I know Myles Garrett is having an out-of-his-mind season, but we've seen now time and time again in this league, if you have somebody in the interior that can push the pocket but also multiply everybody else around, the beautiful thing about playing against Kansas City was every sack came from a 4-man rush. And that is the impact of Quinnen Williams being a part of this team. You can see him here with the pressure, and now it's a chase down. That way you can commit more guys to coverage, which Dallas was their weakness. And now you add a guy that can be impactful on the interior. You either have to double team him. He's won multiple one-on-ones. He's grading out as one of the highest defensive tackles in the NFL. He makes that much of a difference. They let Micah Parsons go, and they brought in Quinnen Williams, and they found another guy that can impact the rest of the guys on the defensive line, similarly to what Micah Parsons was able to do.
I think it's a special season. I really do. And I think what they went through over that bye week with the loss of Nealand and how they've galvanized is real.
Yeah.
I also think we're getting contributions and plays that maybe we weren't getting in recent weeks and recent seasons. Last week, you were sitting in that chair, Swagoo. You said the play of the day for them was this season-saving play by Elijah Clark on the punt return. Watch Clark. Gets banged around 3 times, 4 times, doesn't stop. And who causes the fumble? Elijah Clark. Yep. Sure enough, they're in a 1-score game here. George Pickens fumbles the ball on Thanksgiving. Kavontae Turpin is Johnny on the spot and maybe saves the season by recovering the fumble. I texted a Cowboys source after this game. I said, CD, Dak, amazing. Their response was, the Turpin play. Make sure you highlight the Turpin play. It's those little things that are different, and they're happening on a week-to-week basis. Hey, guess what? Thursday, they play the Lions. I would expect more of that.
Adam, of course, the boos are raining down. You heard what Tomlin said. You heard what Rodgers said there. A lot of this does, of course, question Mike Tomlin's future there in Pittsburgh. What do we know?
Well, Laura, I think there are some people who say the Pittsburgh Steelers haven't won a playoff game since 2016, and there aren't many coaches that would survive a playoff winless streak that long. On the other hand, you can say that Mike Tomlin also hasn't had a losing season in his 18 years as a Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. So there's fodder for both sides of the argument for people debating it. But I think when you speak to people around the league, everybody agrees the Pittsburgh Steelers would never fire Mike Tomlin. It wouldn't come down that way. If Mike Tomlin wanted to leave there, that would be up to him. But he wouldn't be swept out of office the way that some coaches are in some organizations. This is a different set of circumstances, just as it was for Andy Reid when he left the Philadelphia Eagles organization. And if Mike Tomlin didn't want to stay there, he instantly would vault to the top of head coaching candidates lists. He could have any head coaching job he wanted. He could have any broadcasting job he wanted. He could have my job. He probably could be an insider if that's what he wanted to do. There's a lot that Mike Tomlin could do. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, in the opinion of many people, they're not firing Mike Tomlin. That option doesn't seem to be on the table.
Yeah, I mean, he's earned that, right? And Adam, no one can be you, okay? Just leave it there. ESPN Analytics gives the Steelers just a 32% chance to make the playoffs. RC, what do you make of this situation with Mike?
Well, I think the first thing is, and I fought with Steeler fans for years on social media, last night was the first time I understood them. Last night was the first time I looked at the product on the field and said, okay, in preparing this team and getting this team to go play, Mike Tomlin failed tonight. I also loved Aaron Rodgers' answer when they tried to bait him into saying something about Coach Tomlin. The players do have to play better. And here's that example. They lined up and ran the same run play over and over and over again. And at some point, somebody has to dig their heels in the ground and say, I'm going to take off running. And nothing is going to stop me until I feel a face mask of a Buffalo Bill. A Cam Haywood who did get in the backfield on one of those plays. You got to do that over and over and over again. TJ Watt, who I know has pride, who is a Hall of Famer, you got to put your face mask on somebody else's face mask until they stop wanting to hit you. Buffalo, their quarterback, talking trash to one of your leaders, and then he runs the football, and you allow that team to push him into the end zone? That's not who the Pittsburgh Steelers are supposed to be. And you could be mad at Mike Tomlin and the coaching staff all you want, but that wasn't X's and O's, right? Yeah. That was one team being more physical, being meaner, and dominating the other team, and the other team refused to do anything about it, and that's not the standard of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin knows that that's below the line, and those fans know that as well.
I think you hit on something, though, that I do want to parse out with you guys. When a team essentially just runs the same thing over and over at you and says, you can't stop, which is
disrespectfully.
Disrespectfully, and is also the hardest thing to watch for fans, I think, too. It's like they're just running duo over and over, or zone with the cutback on the weak side. How much of that do you put to talent versus coaching? Because going back and watching all the runs, multiple Steelers just completely getting dominated at the point of attack, or on the backside, bad eye discipline. And we're talking about the defensive line and the backers getting blocked down, but really the DBs. The Buffalo may not have a group of world beaters or receivers, but boy, they were blocking them down, Shavers and Shakir and company. So when you look at that, it's such a team-wide failure against a specific type of run. Do you blame the coaches to some degree?
I'll answer before Peter jumps in. My perception would be it's not just happening on game day. If it's happening on game
what I'm
day,
asking.
it's happening in practice.
Right.
I watched all the press conferences back this morning because I'm like, I want to hear from all the players. I want to hear what they're saying. And to your point, Mina, TJ Watt on the Bills' rushing dominance. I've never seen a team run the same play that much and have that kind of success. And that's TJ Watt saying it. And that was with two Bills starting offensive tackles not in the game and out. That's with backup tackles. You saw the numbers from James Cook. But you go back to before the season started. They went all in on this year. You know, the DK Metcalf trade and the contract, the TJ Watt contract, going and get Jalen Ramsey. And, of course, Rodgers was the finishing touch. This is not where they expected to be. RC, they were booing during Renegade yesterday. And that's a first for me. They were booing during Styx Renegade, which is the tradition of all traditions.
Because they knew they was finna get ran on. Why are we even playing it?
Oh, no.
Mark gonna kill me. I'm gonna deviate away from. Look,
You're not gonna get killed.
We've talked about the run game. Obviously, they couldn't set the edge. They couldn't handle a cutback. Schematically, they could not stop the run. All right, the Pittsburgh Steelers are exactly where they deserve to be. This was a team with no plan after Ben Roethlisberger. They've been waffling the last 7 years in the NFL, and we all know the truth. We all know the truth. They put all their chips into Aaron Rodgers and thought this particular year he was going to be able to max out as a 40-year-old quarterback and hopefully make it to the playoffs. They are in a division where it's ripe for the taking, and they are still not what they need to be. It's a retooling that needs to take place in Pittsburgh. That's it. It's that simple. Like, the team cannot go in any direction until you get the most important position right. That's where they sit, and they've been sitting there for a long time as we've been talking about this team. Ever since I started on NFL Live, they ain't had a quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger left. So go get the defensive players, go get the quarterbacks, do this makeshift, fire Tomlin, do all of that talking. We all know damn well if you don't have that position, you are not going to have success in this league.
Here is the Tomlin conundrum. You haven't been good enough to win a playoff game, but you also are never bad enough to pick in the top 5.
RC,
that's the issue.
It's finally caught up that their defense is not dominant. That's all we're seeing. We've seen this offense be in the pits. How many times have we had conversations about Pittsburgh offense? And we still having the same one?